Hello, friends. Eddie Ryder here with Designers Lane. Super excited about my next guest from Windsor Windows. It is Tricia Postma. We're going to hold on tight and flip over and give her a little chit chat and learn about windows and doors. So I am so excited. I have you here. We've been talking on the phone for a while, and I have to let all of the listeners and viewers know that Gina, who I absolutely adore at Builders, recommended you. And it's so nice to see you for the first time. I kind of wish everyone could see your boots because your boots are absolutely amazing.
I know. Are you sure you don't want to just talk about fashion?
Well, I don't. We probably could, and then like there of it. But yes, it's wonderful. That's there, and maybe fashion will be the next one that we do. So let's get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way, so
Sure.
I don't forget. You are with, is it Windsor Windows and Doors? Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And then so Windsor Window and Doors. And then where is Windsor based out of?
So Windsor is based out of West Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay. Is that where their production facility is?
So we have two production facilities currently. We have a facility in West Des Moines, but then we also have a facility in our backyard in Monroe, North Carolina.
Okay, so we want to let you and I know that right now we're in central North Carolina, where it snowed the other day, and then 3 days before that it was 80 degrees. So the weather's a little bit wacky.
Yes.
And I'm happy I'm not sneezing and coughing because the rain got rid of the pollen. But we're in central. So again, the listeners could be, in California. So this kind of leads me to another question. And I'm so excited, I can't wait to show the pictures because they are just stunning and beautiful.
Yes.
Your material and product for windows is gorgeous. Can someone, where's your product based? In other words, if someone is listening to this or they see the pictures, saying they're in California or they're in New York or they're in Texas, is that a product for them or is it more centralized to zip codes or to general areas?
No, Eddie. So we can ship product all across the United States.
You can all across. I love it. Again, I'm so excited for the people to see the pictures because it's really super nice. Now, are you represented in areas like where Gina was at Builders First Source, where they go in and you have a showroom within multiple areas, or are there specific showrooms for Windsor?
So we work with several different distribution partners, obviously Gina being one of them. And she has an amazing showroom within the Builders First Source location. Her showroom is not exclusive to Windsor, but we have our own section. And then several of our other distribution partners also have really nice showrooms.
So distribution, let's sort of explain what that is because I deal with that a lot with countertop materials and windows and doors. A distribution center is going to be an area that distributes out your product. Is that correct?
Correct. So, Eddie, we're obviously the manufacturer, and then we sell to the distributors like Builders First Source, and then they work directly with the builders, and sometimes they can counsel the homeowners and help them, lead them in a direction, but generally they are wholesale only. So they are working directly with the builders.
So, and I'm going to ask you this at the very, very end, is the social media and then how people reach out. Would someone in the general public physically talk to you, or did I just get lucky and then I'm dealing with you and you're sort of regional and you get out and handle the whole product? Or would that person talk to more with Gina or more with, people may not know Gina, a salesperson that goes into a general showroom for the product? How would that work?
So it could go either way, Eddie. Honestly, we consider our distributors to be partners and we work hand in hand. I am out in the field all the time, and I am happy to help in whatever way I can.
You are in the field a lot.
I am. Yes, I am.
You are in the field a lot. And now I think I've been invited, although you may not know this yet, to see production, how the windows are physically made. Is that correct?
Yes. So you can come and tour our plant in in Monroe, North Carolina.
Gosh, I was hoping it was the other one that I could get on a plane.
No, well, you don't. So I was just there in February, and it was below zero and snowing. So
Monroe would be better for sure.
Monroe would be much better.
So is that something that you guys promote just for designers and builders, or can general public, someone that's getting ready to drop, $75,000 or $120,000 on windows, can they go to the manufacturing plant and see how it's put together?
They can. They would need, it's something that would need to be scheduled, with an appointment
obviously.
And scheduled, but we are happy for people, for homeowners, for builders, for distributors, for designers like yourself to tour our plant.
So my big question is, there somewhere to eat in Monroe?
Yes.
Okay, there is. Okay.
and we'll supply. We'll take you to lunch.
Wonderful. My big thing is, after a beautiful tour like that, I like to eat. Obviously, I'm always hungry. So whether it's Chick-fil-A or whether it's a hot dog stand, we have to make sure that there's good food.
We could maybe step it up a couple notches above.
Hey, I think it's great. I'm super excited. In April, I'm actually going out to a trim facility, ITC, and learning about product. And one of the things I love to do is, I obviously work really, really close with builders and with homeowners that are building, beautiful homes. So I like to have an understanding, why is this window great? There are a lot of windows out there, just like there's a lot of trim, there's a lot of doors, there's a lot of appliances. And heavens knows that they are just so expensive right now. And we do want our listeners and people to know it's because of the freight has a lot to do with it. And that it's nice to know how they're kind of put together. And I love having that opportunity to be able to go out and then take an afternoon or a day or 3 days in some applications, if I have to jump on a plane and fly, to know how it's put together. Yeah. Again, if you're asking people to spend a nice chunk of change, it has to be more than just pretty. And then that's easy. That's the really, really easy part. It's the functioning. Is it going to last for 15 or 20 years? Is it something that's going to work for everyone down the road? So that is incredibly nice to hear. So just to let you know, and I've for a gazillion times, my left shoulder, your right shoulder, I have our little cheat sheet up there. And then that way we can refer over there. So if people see me looking over, they know that I'm not necessarily looking at the clock. I'm looking at my questions.
I'm not boring you.
No, you're not boring me at all. Not one bit. So I wanted just to double check. So Windsor offers exactly what materials? Is it primarily windows and interior doors?
Yes.
Okay, so the interior, I've just saw.
So not interior doors like for rooms, but sliding patio doors.
I got you. Okay, really, really cool doors. Now, I got a slap on the wrist and a little bit of an education, and when we look at our pictures, I'm going to bring this up, and maybe since you know more than me out there, you can hopefully not slap me or kick me under the table, is the height of these awesome, incredible doors now that look outside, since you brought up exterior doors. What is Windsor's comfort level of the height? Because I see some of these in the West Coast, and then usually 8 to 10 feet is where I typically am told to stop. Unless all of a sudden I've shrunk over the last year. Some of those look like they're more than 10 feet tall. So do you still sort of preach that or suggest that, keep them at that level so they don't kind of get wonky and turn?
So we can absolutely build doors, like you said, in the 8 to 10 foot range. But then in our Pinnacle Select series, we have the ability to build some of those massive doors.
Oh, so you can go taller then.
We can. And we can do the multi-slides, the bifold doors.
So the bifolds are the accordions. They look like
Correct.
Z's that can sink back. What's the first one that you said?
The multi-slide.
The multi-slide. And I think that's in some of the pictures. So what we'll do is when we look at them, we'll point them out and give us a little bit of an education. I love the multi-slide. And then I'm a big fan, although we don't see it as much here in central North Carolina as you do, say, in the West Coast and then down in Florida, when those sliding glass doors pocket back into the walls and they completely disappear. And that has to be planned accordingly for the architect because, unless your 6 inches is that big, it's not going to physically happen in there. What about these exposed corners where you see the doors land? So you have, a 90 degree in 2 corners or 2 doors land and you can open them up and then that corner looks like it floats and it doesn't support. Do you guys offer that? Are you familiar with that?
I'm not sure what you're...
I'll have to see if I pull up a picture. Again, I work with a fair amount of contractors, and they get nervous when there's no load point on that corner. And it's almost if you have a corner and you just have two sliders that go up next to it. And then when you open them up, it's just open. And I've seen that before, and I was like, I don't think I want to stand under this corner because it may fall. But it cantilevers out. There's steel that holds it up, and they're guaranteeing me that it's not going to happen. But as we know, things start on the left coast and then migrate over to the East Coast to where we are, and we're seeing some of that. And definitely see a bit of it down in Florida. But I've always questioned that a little bit. So I'm kind of eager to maybe use that, although I'm waiting for someone to say, no, don't do it. So we'll be able to see that's on there. So who knows how that happens. What makes Windsor such a fabulous and great product other than it looks amazing and it's beautiful? Like, what are the guts made out of for people that don't know, which is probably 99% of the people?
So Windsor manufactures 4 distinct product lines.
Okay.
So our premium line is our Pinnacle series. And within that series, we have what we call our Pinnacle Clad. And then, as I said just a second ago, Pinnacle Select.
Okay.
And then we have a cellular PVC line that we call Legend.
Okay.
And then we have our vinyl line that we call Next Dimension.
Okay.
And then last but not least is our replacement line, which is called Revive. So with 4 separate lines, I feel that we have options to meet any design style out there. And just as an example, Eddie, I'll tell you, in our Pinnacle series, right, we have over 50 color options.
Oh, gosh.
And 7 of those are the matte colors.
So you said 50, 50.
50. And 7 of those are the matte colors. And I'm sure in your line of work, you're seeing the trend towards the modern aesthetic.
Right.
And these matte colors are extremely popular.
Now, matte color, for those who don't know, means it's not going to be shiny. It's not going to have a sheen to it. What happens if 10 years down the road and you come back and you want a semi-gloss or gloss, a little bit of a sheen finish to, which is what the majority of them right now is? It sort of, you pick it and you need to live with it, or?
So our paint finishes are a powder coat finish, and they are designed to last. The warranty is 20 years with an option to upgrade to 30.
Fabulous.
So
20.
You can repaint them. I don't know that that's something that you would really want to do once you have that super nice factory finish on it.
Factory finish is huge. Because it's done in a controlled environment. It works, it holds up. And again, I believe in design. If you do something well, and whether it's trendy or it's not trendy, if it's done well, it's going to last a long time. You know, probably 25, 30 years, it's time for new windows anyway. And then maybe that's something that you do a little bit different and you change up. But, you know, right now, certainly, if you've seen on social media, there's a little bit of a trend where people are painting their windows and painting some of their exterior doors. And I discourage that. And then a couple of other vendors that I've talked to, they're like, you know, that could really void the warranty. It's just you don't want to do anything. So we're going to encourage people, and I'm probably going to use that for one of my terrific 3, is know what finish you want, you know, and there are a couple of different finishes. 50 colors is amazing. I mean, that is tremendous. Now, will those do they come in chips or samples? How would someone view them if they came to the showroom? I mean, 50 is huge.
Right. So our distribution partners in their showroom, they have color samples, and if a homeowner is wanting to get it narrowed down to a few select colors, then we can absolutely get them those sample chips.
I think that's amazing. Let's stick on colors for a second, and we'll bring this back up in a minute or two. What are you seeing the primary colors? I think it's black and then sort of white or ivory, a really soft white. What are you seeing as the majority of the orders that's coming through, or where you guys are seeing production going over the next couple of years?
So I think it's really an exciting time for windows. I mean, obviously windows are what allow light and ventilation into our homes, but really, Eddie, I mean, there's so much more. Windows are absolutely now setting the stage for home design.
Right.
And so the trend, as you mentioned, the black windows, rather that's black on black, which means a black interior, or some people are doing black with a white interior, or some people are keeping the frame white on the interior, but the sash black. We are seeing bronze is another big color, grays.
Oh, wow. Grays, wonderful
idea.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, I was I was out and about and I saw the crimson red.
Oh,
and it is not
wow.
a color that when I was building my
Probably
house,
a tough
I would
one.
have been nervous to pick, but it was absolutely beautiful on the home.
That is stunning. That is really stunning. You brought up one thing, colors. So outside it's baked on and it's done in the mill. Inside, so is it you choose the color from you, or can the customer paint it once it's in? And I know different vendors offer different options.
Right. So we have a pre-finish option.
Okay.
But if you want to just have it primed, you can do that. Or
Okay.
if you want it unfinished, the choices
So
are.
it sounds like there are options. And the reason I
Correct.
ask for that and about that is right now a lot of the cabinets are running full height to the ceiling. And then if the cabinets are white in the kitchen or a clean color, I like to match them to the casing. The casing needs to match the window. It's sort of
Yes.
everything layers on top of each other. And I usually have the choice of exactly what you said. I can either paint the interior or I can have it come that way. Often it's a little bit, I think, my opinion, so no hate mail anyone, if it comes pre-finished, it's done differently and stronger. It's going to last differently and a little bit better, but you have to match that color. So it's either take that sample
Right.
to Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore, whomever paint vendor that you're going to use, and then hit that color. So when that trim and that crown goes across the top of your cabinets, the worst thing in my mind and again, my opinion, is that when there's a mismatch and it's very, very obvious that's in there. So again, if the windows are, if they're painted, you have a little bit of flexibility. And then I also have to match the jamb on the inside, the thickness of the window. You want it to be as close as possible. Do you offer formulas that, hey, it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we take that or give that to the painter? Or would you recommend physically take that sample that you give me or give the homeowner to your painter and to your favorite paint store and say, hey, color match this? Because that could be a big screw up visually.
So one of the things that's an option is to have the windows. If you want to paint them yourself in the field, then you wouldn't really have a color sample from
Sure.
us because you're choosing a field paint.
Right.
So what you can do though is choose to have the windows come with the interior primed. And that makes it a little easier for the painters because everything they need to paint is.
So we still do one coat or two coats of paint over it, but it's primed.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. If you choose a pre-finished interior, then we can absolutely send you paint samples.
Okay.
For
a chip or something.
Correct. And all of our paint colors we use Sherwin-Williams. And we're able to easily get the codes.
Fabulous. That's great. And then we want to remind everyone that sometimes the color of the cabinets, again, you may call it Chantilly's lace or one of the Dove White for the Sherwin-Williams colors, is that we give that often to our custom cabinet maker. But when they process that and they bake it, it warms up a little bit. It's not the exact same. So we always want to remind people to look at that chip and then make sure that it's physically there. It wasn't as big of a deal years ago when the cabinets weren't full height and didn't go to the ceiling. Now that they run to the ceiling and you run that crown molding, boy, if that color is off, it's not as severe as putting black and white together, but it's pretty darn close. And I can't tell you the projects in the houses that I've walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, that doesn't match. And it's something that people really need to think about and they need to consider that's in there. Speaking of thinking about and considering, and I want to jump down to probably number 9, what do people need to do? What are you see the biggest mistakes that people make that you want to say, definitely consider this when you're looking at your windows? Is it your cabinets, how the trim's going to interact with those pieces? It's the colors. Do you want to use purple, God forbid, on your windows? Or I'm going to do the crimson and think about it. That's on there. What do they need to think about and what's important when they come to that vendor or that distributor to know ahead of time?
So with windows, while we have some standard sizes that we call sizes,
right,
most every product becomes a custom product.
Okay.
Because you have so many options to choose from.
Okay.
I often say to people when I'm working with them that the good news is that your choices are unlimited, and the bad news is that your choices are unlimited. So it can become overwhelming.
Absolutely.
So what I really recommend is that people have a clear vision of what their what the style is that what is the look that they're going after. And I'm sure you advise your clients the same. Sites now like Houzz and Pinterest and are an amazing source for inspiration.
They could be positive or they could be negative.
Correct. And then also certainly a person can never go wrong with hiring a designer such as yourself. You can really work with them to help them narrow down just what their style is and what products or what look is gonna go with the overall aesthetic of their home.
I agree 1,000%. One of the big challenges that I run into is it blows my mind that people that are building high-end expensive homes sometimes don't consider, or maybe they are considering bringing in a designer. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you're getting ready to drop millions and millions of dollars on something. Go ahead and spend the time. It's probably going to take 2 to 3 years from very, very beginning inspiration to you get furniture moved into the home, is to know what it is. There are a ton of options out there. And I love social media and Instagram and Pictionary, all those things, draw the houses. But sometimes it can be overwhelming and then too much for the customers. And they look at something. I was just at the granite yard the other day with a client, and the granite's like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I was like, it's not appropriate for your home. And they were like, oh, I didn't really mean for my home. And I was like, then let's not talk about it, because we've got 1,001 things that we need to do for you right now. And it's very easy. And I guess my point is to get sidetracked. It's just you look at beautiful pictures and it's kind of like the squirrel and the wiener dog. It's like, oh, there's a squirrel. There's a squirrel. I'm supposed to be eating my lunch. And then all of a sudden I want to dart after and chase after this. There's a tremendous amount of options. And I know with furniture and with building materials, the vendors want you. They want you to do that. And they build beautiful products. They need to offer it. And if you're building a transitional to a traditional style home, there's a particular window style that you want to use. If you're building a little bit more of a modern transitional to a modern style, or even an ultra modern style, there's definitely a look that you want to have. And you may not know that. The general consumer may not know that until they make that decision. And I wish that you didn't have 50 color options. I wish you had 3. Because what happens is those come back in. But it is nice to know that, hey, I can have more of a gray undertone. I can have a green or a red, a crimson red. But if you want to take that challenge, you want to plan ahead for that. It's just something you don't do all of this legwork with the architect and say, oh, well, I want to have an red-orange window.
Well, and that's where I say I think having a clear vision of what you want your home aesthetic, what you want it to look like overall is essential, because like we were just saying, with so many products and options out there, it is easy to get lost. But for the person who is unsure or maybe hasn't hired a designer, then that's where sometimes looking at some of those boards, while true, I mean, even that can be overwhelming, at least they can get a visual that they can show to someone else of
this is
what it is they're wanting to create.
I think that having that inspiration board, and again, I encourage people, because me as a designer do the same thing. I take your pictures, try and narrow it down, play a little bit of a psychologist here, although again, I'm not a psychologist, so don't call me up with your problems. Is there a style? If you sent me 10 pictures, are there 5 or 6 that are leaning in one direction? And that's a cheat. That's what I use. Okay, well, they like this particular style. If all of the windows that you send me are black, I'm like, okay, that's black. It's my job to say, you know what, maybe just do the sliding glass doors black on the inside, and then let's have everything else white. But that determines a little bit on the look and the style you're going for. And you brought up an amazing point, is that not only do you need to think about the outside, the exterior, you really need to think about the interior, what's going to happen there, because the windows are the eyeballs to your house. You're going to see in and you're going to see out. There's a big question whether you do the grills or the lights, as we like to call them, all the way around, or if you have a beautiful view of the out of the back, or you're looking on a golf course or a pond or the ocean. Maybe you don't want to do anything there and then have them open, which is completely okay. Maybe you want to have them open in the front. But I would never take a traditional home and have no grills or no grids or no lights in the front of the home, because to me, it's going to look awkward. Your money, you write the check, you can do what you want. It's my job to advise you. Either I agree and explain if I disagree, explain why I disagree, that this may not be the best look and the best value. And hopefully we have that figured out when we come to the meeting with you or at the showroom, so we don't have to hash it out right there in front of everybody.
You don't want to air your dirty laundry.
You don't want to air your dirty laundry. And the same thing with the couples or the people that's buying their home. It's nice to have that figured out in the beginning. So when you come there, it's not, oh, what do I want? Do I want this or do I want that? Because what should take an hour, hour and a half can end up taking all day long and not be fun. And I want to encourage people to let it be fun, to learn and enjoy it. But you have to do a little bit of legwork on the front end to be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Or trust your designer, love your designer or your salesperson, and then give them just tons of ability, carte blanche to be able to do everything without a doubt. So I want to, before we jump into the pictures, our number 7, I want to ask you about current delays, because that has been just a thorn in everybody's side, from appliances to shingles to front doors to wood doors. Where do you think right now we are with Windsor on the timing? So say if we come in, we approve the order for Windsor and it goes into production, because again, I understand you are a manufacturer and you get the okay that you want to go ahead and start building these windows. How long does it take approximately to get from production to the distributor? And the distributor is the one that kind of puts them out in the job site.
So right now, our longest lead time is right at 13 weeks.
Okay, that's not bad.
No, that is a huge improvement
kind of
over. Yes. So like you were just saying, many industries have been hit very hard with disruptions due to the pandemic, supply chain issues, increased demand. I think as a result of COVID, mm-hmm. people have been investing. They've been spending a lot more time at home. And so taking this opportunity
iPads, looking and seeing what's out there,
to really invest in their home. And then as you know, this whole triangle area is just continuing to boom. Right. And so the rate of new construction is tremendous.
It is. It's tremendous. And I'm always cautious and careful to talk about price points because I know that distributors wholesale things out. Is Windsor more, and I'm looking behind you for the answer on the wall and it's not there. Is Windsor, I'm trying to go to a price point. Is that more, lower, medium, upper? It sounds like you have kind of all the bases covered in what you just, the 4 different levels that you spoke of earlier. If someone wants to do super, super high end, you have that covered. And if someone wants to be a little bit more aggressive on their price point, sounds like you may have that too.
We do.
Okay.
We do. Yes.
And so do you recommend when someone again goes in and they talk to whomever they're going to talk to, call it the window Jesus, if you will, and say, hey, I like this particular manufacturer and this particular manufacturer, and then narrow it down. And then because different manufacturers are going to offer different products. In my mind, it stinks to have spent hours and going in one direction because the grills and everything are going to be a little bit different, the trim around the windows, and then at the last minute change because you're going to have to redo everything. Reasonable?
Yes.
Okay, I agree. Yay. Give you a cookie that's on there. That's wonderful. So 12 weeks. The other thing I like 13. To do, 13 weeks. I'm just trying to tease it a little bit. Other thing I like to do is windows are one of the very first things that we order usually. And knock on wood, and I don't want to knock on the table because it's going to vibrate. And the reason I like to do that is the time frame. And it takes about that time anyway to get the house framed and to get the roof on. Usually windows don't go in until the shingles are on the roof. And it's, we're huffing to get there at 12 or 13 weeks. And again, you never know what delays are going to be. You don't know what bombs are going to fall out of the sky or, how much gas is going to be, or if there's a shortage in material that's going to cause it to be delayed. Do you agree? Would you still encourage people? And I know that you're on a different line, but to know what those windows are and when you have a general idea of what your plans are, to make that decision, and the day you break ground is to sign that contract and then get the windows ordered.
Yes, I think that is definitely the smart way to go because lead times have been so volatile. It really has been an up and down.
Do you still think they could be volatile and go back up again? We just don't know.
We just don't know.
That's a little bit scary to know that we just don't know. I'm holding my number one to remember something, and I keep forgetting what it is. So hopefully I'll come back to it and remember. We talked about lead times that's there, and then colors, and then again, I'm not a big fan, and most of the contractors are not. They don't like to put windows in or rough in any of the materials until the windows go in because they help protect the water and the intrusion that physically comes in. So I think that works now. So now the fun part that I've been dying to be able to do is we're going to look at some pictures. And then during the pictures, the whole picture is going to come up on the monitor and on the screen, so no one's going to be able to see us. And then I'm going to ask you some questions, and we're going to talk about them, the items that are relevant for you guys. Okay. And then I'm super excited about one I have at the very, very end, so we're going to do that. Okay. So, Drago, if you can pull up photograph picture 1. And this is, again, we're not going to talk about decorating, but I'm just going to put in something. This is definitely a little bit more modern and clean and magnificent. And then afterwards, I'm probably going to ask you who a couple of these architects are because
I don't know.
You don't know? Oh, okay.
No, these were off of our social media page. So
they're stunning, though. They're really, really stunning. So I won't ask you that. I'll reach out maybe to someone else. Tell me about what windows that we're physically seeing in here from Windsor. We have these they look like 24 by 24s on the top. I'm assuming that those are non-operable?
Yes, they're not operable.
And then what we talked about, doors. You have fabulous doors that look like windows that's in the back. And then would you consider these transoms above them?
Yes.
And again, that is a great way to achieve a taller look. That's in there. Would we say these are about 8 feet tall-ish doors, maybe 10 at most?
It's hard to gauge off of a picture because you really don't know how tall the ceilings are in that room.
That's a pretty tall ceiling.
I would say that they're at least 10 foot.
Okay. Well, we're going to call it 10, and then you have the window above it. And so, do you happen? And again, this is sort of a faraway shot. Do you have an idea of what product this is?
So I would say that
could be?
Yeah, I would say that is our Pinnacle series.
Okay.
It's really difficult to tell from the photograph, rather it's Pinnacle Select or Pinnacle Clad.
Right.
But I would say that it is definitely our aluminum clad.
So the one thing that we can see is it's black on the inside, for sure. And then I'm assuming it's probably black on the outside. And then this, just for our viewers, and this is why we encourage people to check into YouTube, although they can't see your cool boots, but they can see the inside, how this is black. And then this is something that if you call out ahead of time, if I remember correctly, you guys said that you're able to paint it and then deliver it, that it's physically black.
So we can pre-finish the interior black.
Love it. Jago, what's our next one? Woo! Amazing. Just a beautiful shot.
That's my house.
Is this your house? No. Oh gosh, invite me over, please.
I wish.
Gorgeous. Same questions. Do you? This obviously has black on the exterior. There looks like there's transoms added to the top to be able to give a little bit of lift. Would you guess again on the product that this is?
So I would say again that this is our Pinnacle.
Probably in your Pinnacle line. This is great.
And what's great about this picture is that you can see up in the dormers where we have some of what looks like to be radius windows. So windows don't have to just be rectangles or squares, but they can be polygons, radiuses, a multitude of different shapes and configurations. And again, this is obviously a very modern look. And so you notice that what really enhances this is the fact that the frames are very narrow. The grid pattern, the grid bars themselves are again very narrow. So it gives that very streamlined profile, and it increases the amount of glass space.
Love it, love it, love it. I'm going to try not to choke to death. What's our next picture? One of my favorites, definitely more modern, contemporary. These windows, what I wanted to point out is there's very little grids. These are all open and all glass.
Yes.
And you guys have the ability to do that as well. Now, are the front door, I'm assuming, is not you or is Windsor?
I am honestly not sure.
We're going to call it as probably not. But to the left and the right and above it, we can do through Windsor. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay, love it. This is magnificent. Excuse me. Again, this would definitely be more of a custom window, I'm assuming.
So, like I said earlier, Eddie, honestly, every window is for the most part a custom window.
I gotcha. I love this because it's open. You can see the windows. You can see the interior of the house. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, next picture. Same thing here. More contemporary, open, no grid lines. I also wanted to point out, do you guys offer those oversized? I think there becomes a difference between a skylight and a window that's in the roof. Is this something that you guys do as well, or would you recommend, hey, this really needs to be through the skylight company?
We do not do skylights.
Gotcha. And then what's nice with this is there's a mixture of, it looks like you have a wood or a brown around the windows, and you also have the black.
Correct.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, next picture. This is definitely more than 10 feet tall.
Yes.
That's in there. What I think is amazing with this is these look like, are these the bifold doors that kind of push over to the one side?
Yes.
And then you can see inside, it's letting the outdoors in. Spectacular. And again, I want people to see that you have the ability to do super tall. And am I correct that this looks like it just stacks back to the right side?
Correct.
Is that just amazing?
It's beautiful.
I know you don't know who the architect and the designer is, but they did an amazing job. Stunning, beautiful, beautiful. And I just love how it opens up and you're able to see into the backyard. Beautiful, just absolutely stunning. Next picture that we have. Another contemporary, again, we're seeing more contemporaries start to happen. And again, these pictures are national. Again, no grills, no grids. They're open, they stack on top of each other. You're able to see them. I think absolutely beautiful. And these are, since you are represented in North Carolina, I'm sure handle the winds and the rains with hurricanes and storms.
Yeah, so that's a good point to bring up, Eddie, and I've worked with several people here recently that they choose a window that has excellent performance data, but maybe not excellent performance data for the region in which they live. And so that's something that homeowners really need to keep in mind. So for instance, in the North and the North Central, what's most important, right, is keeping the heat, letting heat in and keeping it in.
Right.
But for us here in the South or South Central, we are more interested with keeping the heat out and the cool in.
And the windows in.
Correct. Yeah. So we don't want them to blow out with, hurricanes or.
That's a great thing as regional. And I'll also bring that up in my terrific is that the regional for the window type really, really matters. You can still have the same look and the same vibe, but we need to consider the window.
And that's where, if you look at Energy Star, so Energy Star parameters are different for every region of the country.
Nice to know. Very, very nice to know. Let's jump back. We have a couple other pictures. I've digressed a little bit. I got excited. Our next picture we have, I'm not going to tell you how fabulous this is. And again, we're not here to talk decorating, but it's a nice mixture of both. Again, what I love, these look like they probably accordion fan fold in the back. And then obviously the top ones are fixed, but they line up incredibly. And what's nice with this is it's hard to tell in the pictures. There's still a simple grid. I would consider this a 3-light that's in the top, and then we follow the bottom. And these can stack back. Beautiful, tall, and you guys are able to do that. We definitely want them to be able to consider. And again, you used more of a transitional interior style with a light contemporary window, and it pulled off, and it's just stunning, stunning. Applause, just big applause for this.
And again, you can see in these pictures, I mean, it's really, the decorating is obviously beautiful.
Right.
But if you imagine that room without those amazing big windows.
They play a huge part.
It's essential.
And this is where knowing your idea and what you wanted to do from the beginning helps, because if you didn't have windows up there, or even if they were white, they just wouldn't pull off as nicely if they're darker. They've taken great lengths to blend them with the ceiling, with the beams that's in there, and they're stained. And again, that's taking things to another level. But you look at this and you're like, oh my gosh, I love everything about it. Or, some people could hate it. I can't imagine that. But the reason this plays so well is the windows. I mean, they are such a big ordeal.
Yes.
Now, truth told, that's probably $18,000 worth of windows on the bottom. And I know that you can't quote numbers, and it could even be more now with the freight. It's a chunk of change. But to me, treat that as lighting or as art or a piece of furniture. You may spend a chunk of money.
Right.
And again, things have changed a little bit. We didn't think about putting real numbers or strong numbers in for windows there, because again, everything was white. Now they're not white and you're able to do it. But this is beautiful. I love it. It's absolutely gorgeous.
You mentioned art, right? So imagine that every evening or every day that you're sitting in that room, the palette changes.
It does. And if that's in the South and those are deciduous trees in the fall, it's going to have a beautiful warm tones. Everything's going to turn warm orange. The leaves are going to fall off. I think beautiful, beautiful. Our next slide or picture, number 9, is, again, a lot of these we can see are darker windows, black windows. This is definitely more of a traditional style home. Shows your product. And what I like about this is it shows a nice mixture that you can do it with traditional. You can mix it with, this is obviously natural stone, and you have the stone lintels above it. Magnificent and beautiful. And again, we can take away that all these are custom and are going to work. And one thing, you have double hung, which means they slide up and down, or you can crank them. Is that correct?
So we manufacture double hung windows, which means that both the bottom sash and the top sash are movable.
Okay.
We also have single hung, which means that the bottom sash only moves. And then we have options for casement windows, which are the windows that crank out and they don't have that meeting rail in the middle. And then obviously, as you've seen in a lot of these pictures, we have what are called direct set windows. So they're inoperable windows. They're large, usually.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. And I like your idea you mentioned of mixing the round tops with the square tops so that they don't have to be the same. And the reason I thought that, it's not necessary. Well, it is on this one. You have that big center dormer that has the radius that's on the top, but the picture you had before.
In each one of our plants, we have a team of professionals that are true craftsmen. They are hand making a lot of these shapes. So
beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
It matters. And again, bring in ahead of time, know ahead of time of what you're going to do. I think that plays a major part.
If someone can sketch out a design, then we're happy to give that to our engineering team. Let them take a look at it and see what our capabilities are.
That's great. And honestly, that's part of the design. That's part of creating.
Right.
That is a big deal of it. So, and then picture number 10, our last one, and this is probably where I'm going to, or maybe it's 11. I love this too. Again, it's a transitional. You have this, to me, represents not black, more of a gray that's on the interior, and it's done so incredibly well. It's thinking about the future, and then what happens with that, and then how that pulls off. So again, I love this. We're going to obviously say it's a custom window, but this is a great representation to show that it doesn't have to be black. It could be that gray value that's in there. Now, we don't necessarily know if this was painted or if this was one of your colors, but I'm sure that you have one of these that can pull off. But I love it. And I'm getting a little picture here that I don't have my other one, but one of the pictures they sent over, and I'll ask you this on there as we jump back to the regular podcast, is do you guys offer commercial as well, or is it strictly residential?
So we can do light commercial, multi-family apartment complexes.
That's great. That's in there. And the reason I asked that is one of the pictures that was sent over to me looked like it was a smaller building that was commercial. And then I'm not really talked about that because I don't do a ton of commercial work, but we want to put it out there to the people that you guys do offer that. And certainly that is an area where some of those colors could play into it. But I'm so excited with this last photograph about using these dark grays that is just an incredible option. And then just to double check, if I did the dark gray on the inside. Could I still do black on the outside?
Well, you can. So again, Eddie, you have the option to
Just to
have the
mix it.
interior pre-finished, but you also have the option to paint the
Paint it.
interior whatever color
Any color.
you want, and it doesn't have to just be a paint color. I mean, it can be a stain.
So we can stain it.
Yes.
Love
your interior options are truly unlimited.
Limitless. I think that's absolutely beautiful. So now we're getting close, 42 minutes. Can you believe that we've talked about it? This is the picture right there that I wanted to show you that we've talked about.
Yeah.
So we'll pull it back up. This is, I would consider more of a moderate, a little bit larger, but I'm assuming that you guys did the window since you sent it over here.
We did, yes.
So we want our listeners to know if there's someone that handles commercial that you guys have the ability to do that.
Yes, so light commercial, multifamily.
Commercial. I think it's stunning and looks beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
It is. So we're going to wrap. Going to ask you a couple questions. How can our listeners find Windsor? What is the website? Is there social media that they can go get some of these inspiration pictures from?
Yeah, great question, Eddie. So we are on most all social media platforms.
Okay.
So we are on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can also go to our website, which is windsorwindows.com.
Okay.
And if you're looking for a dealer, there's a tab on that website called the Dealer Locator.
Okay.
And if you click on that, it'll ask you for your zip code.
You'll be able to find out.
You'll be able to find out who's supporting our products
close by. I think that's
area.
amazing, and it's a great spot to be able to go. I love your product. I think it looks amazing, and it's just the qualities there. I'm excited to be able to come and physically see what it is. The inspiration pictures that you sent over, again, that everyone's going to be able to see is stunning and amazing. There are one or two parting thoughts for our listeners. What would you encourage them to think about in the process? As we've covered a lot, and I'll bring up a couple of my terrific. What are a couple things that you would just really want people to understand that maybe you think they're missing currently in the last couple of years that would help them in their final project? Because again, they're going to be in this home for a little bit of a time. What are you thinking?
So again, like we already talked about, obviously the overall aesthetic is very
Huge.
important. They need to really consider what their budget is and where they place importance in the home that they're building. And then last but not least, I definitely you want to consider the overall quality of the product. So we've talked a lot about colors.
Right.
So on the exterior, for instance, a lot of some competitive products, they use two different materials on the frame and the sash.
Right.
So while the sash may be a fully extruded aluminum, while the frame may be a fully extruded aluminum, the sash can be a roll form aluminum, which honestly is just not as durable. And then when if you're choosing a colored window, the fade rate can be different between the two materials.
Fade rate's
so big. That is one thing with Windsor. We are a fully extruded product. And like I stated before, our warranty for our finishes is 20-year, but you have an option to upgrade to a 30-year exterior finish warranty.
That's amazing. I absolutely love it and think it's wonderful. So want to thank you again. 45 minutes. I told you it would go relatively quickly, and you didn't even look at your notes one time. So I think that is amazing and wonderful.
Can I talk?
No, not yet. You can when we finish. That's in there. So we want to thank you so much for being involved. That's in there. And again, we want to remind everyone it's windsorwindows.com. Is that correct?
Yes.
It is. That's how they can look up. And then what do you think is a reasonable amount of time it's going to take if someone calls up and look for someone? Do you think they're going to get in a week or two? Should we kind of like to preface a little bit, hey, it may take you 2 or 3 weeks to physically get in and then see the product? Or does that vary depending upon the location?
It really varies depending upon the distributor. I wouldn't see that if they're wanting to come in. And honestly, I think they can really walk into a showroom and take a look around.
Just take a peek.
But if they're wanting to have personal attention, then that's where they're going to need to reach out to that distributor and schedule an appointment.
Okay, I think that's great. So we're going to wrap and then say thank you so much. I'm excited about everything. And then I think our listeners are going to gauge a tremendous amount from Windsor Windows and then learn about them. And yay. And I'm super excited to go see your plant and learn a whole bunch about your product.
Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
You bet so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
What an amazing conversation to learn more and a ton about windows and doors. Props to Tricia with the Windsor. Love them. Be sure and then check them out on their Instagram, their Facebook page, social media. Get some ideas. That's going to lead me to my terrific 3. And we're going to borrow these and follow some of the details that she talked about. 1 is region. Keep in mind that if you're listening and you're looking, that windows that and actually exterior doors that maybe will go in upstate New York or the northern region, it's going to be a little bit different than windows that go in, say, North Carolina or down in Florida. The same thing for the West Coast in California. Keep that in mind. Your region matters when you're ordering your windows. Let the vendor, let the distributor know ahead of time. Also, let your architect know if he's the one that specs them out. Region matters. Number 2, something that was a great takeaway is Windsor offers sheen differences. You know, there's a matte finish, which is leaning a little bit more contemporary today. And there's also kind of that semi-gloss that has a little bit of a sheen to it. You want to be able to pick those out and know what they're going to be ahead of time. And then she also talked about the interior. They can be primed from them, or either you can paint it your own color or have it done from the manufacturer. Keep those elements in mind and know what they need to be. And 3, definitely not the last one, timing. I know we talked about this multiple times, but I can't stress how important it is. She said about 13 weeks. I'd probably add another week or 2 in there just to play it safe. And that's ordering. You still have a couple of weeks of time it's going to take from thinking about it and the design and creating. So be sure and allow enough time. Get that product ordered the day that you break ground so you're not waiting for the windows and the doors to come in and then give you some definite time. Want to thank everyone for listening and tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to my podcast. This way you get all notifications. You get alerts when something new and something posts. It's wonderful. And we also want to thank our, we want to thank our sponsors, Dogwood and Company. He's going to be able to handle all of your new construction needs in Central North Carolina. And then Jenny Blanton, she's going to handle if you're looking to sell something, looking for a property, again, in Central North Carolina. Give her a call, look her up, see if it's something she can help you with. Thanks again for everyone, and we will talk to you really soon. Have a great day.